They just heard me. Good morning.
Good morning. What's going on, Valerie?
Not a whole lot. How are you doing, Mike?
Living the dream. We're
I
just
know.
talking about it's Monday morning, getting after it already with a live show.
I know. Monday morning at 9 a.m. is tough, but it allows us to start the week off right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Well,
especially when we have guests like you on. I'm so excited for you to be here. So for our audience, Mike and I met 2019.
probably around that
Yeah.
time.
Around 2019 through our Bunker Labs family. He is an amazing human being, an amazing entrepreneur. So I'm really excited to have you on the show. Why don't you just tell the audience a little bit about you, and then I'll start firing off some questions.
Yeah, so my name is Mike Steadman. I go by Iron Mike these days. I'm the founder of Ironbound Boxing and Ironbound Media. Ironbound Boxing is a nonprofit based in Newark, New Jersey, where I'm located, that provides free amateur boxing training and entrepreneur education to Newark youth and young adults. We have an amazing free boxing gym here called the Ironbound Boxing Academy that I started in 2017. And that really kicked off my entrepreneurial journey. In addition, I run Ironbound Media, which is a podcast production agency that creates branded podcasts for veteran-owned businesses. So I like to call it a dog whistle branding. So we help veterans build dog whistle brands that channel through the noise, stand out from the crowd, and engage their perfect customer. As you can see, I got my podcast set up here. I'm a fan of audio, and I think audio is the future of publishing. And so I started, Ironbound Media as a way to build brands using audio and our proprietary dog whistle brand strategy framework. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I was a Marine veteran, infantry officer, and more so today, I describe myself as a Renaissance man. So got a book coming out called Black Veteran Entrepreneur, Validate Your Business Model, Build Your Brand, and Step into Your Greatness. And I'm real excited just about, life and trying new things and challenging myself.
Yeah, it's been so awesome to follow you over these last couple of years. So when you started Ironbound, was it a for-profit or not-for-profit?
It was a not-for-profit. I knew I wanted to start a free boxing program for youth in the inner city. And so, I got a location from the city of Newark. I approached the city of Newark about outfitting a free gym somewhere in the city. They gave me a space in the back of a Leaky Recreation Center in the Ironbound neighborhood of Newark, hence the Ironbound Boxing Academy. And so I knew I did not want to charge kids, and I knew I'd have to fundraise to cover that cost. So I went with the nonprofit for that. Now, after I got up and running, after about 2 years or so, in 2018, I left my full-time job. I was working at a private school in downtown Newark to focus on Ironbound full-time. And I did try to stand up a for-profit arm of Ironbound Boxing, teaching boxing to companies in the New York City metro area. And I turned that into a little lifestyle business. So for about a year and a half, I was going on site teaching boxing classes to companies like Spotify, Next Jump, Etsy. And then once the pandemic hit, we pivoted to virtual, and I exited that into podcast production.
That's awesome. So how different was the journey in for the for-profit and not-for-profit? Because we have a lot of veterans and military spouses that come to Action Zone and they're like, I want to do a nonprofit. And I always ask why, because it's so hard.
I think people assume because it's nonprofit, right, that they don't have to do as much. Like it's like a good idea, right? They feel like there's this idea of, oh, we want to create impact and we could just use other people's money to do it. Not like a lot of business owners, right? And I think that they think like a nonprofit is almost like a shortcut to be able to do it, because then you can fundraise, et cetera. But for me, it's more about the stakeholders, right? So on the nonprofit side of the house, you're really focused on a group of stakeholders. I don't call them customers, right? These people that you're trying to impact. Backpacks for Life serves homeless veterans. I serve Newark youth and young adults. And it's really about, building a program to serve them, getting resources to them, and really getting creative to fund it. So versus a for-profit, it's like pretty straightforward, right? You got a product or service that you're selling at a specific price point, and then you go out and you get customers. And so I find that the nonprofit is a lot harder than a for-profit business.
Yeah, absolutely. I recently was speaking at an event, and this young lady came to me afterwards, and she was like, I want to, enroll in Action Zone. I have this idea. Everybody told me I should do a nonprofit because people will throw money at this.
Yeah.
And I was like, you need to get new friends because it is not that easy. And Rosie will tell people, she has started many businesses over the years, and hands down, the hardest thing that she's ever done, or the hardest business she's ever started, was Action Zone, because it is nonprofit.
Yeah, it's different motivation too, even
Mhm.
volunteers and stuff, right? Like, to be honest, right, like for nonprofits, especially if you're a community-based organization, it's not like you're paying, premium salaries and stuff for people. If people are volunteering with a community or grassroots nonprofit, it's because it means something more to them, and so it's more about, making people feel fulfilled, making people feel appreciated. Probably that equates a lot to just a normal business. But the thing is, we're not necessarily doing it from a monetary perspective. It's more so like a support perspective. So yeah, you can pay a volunteer, you can hire someone and pay a minimum wage, right? Or you can just make sure that their program is well supported, that when they have, needs like curriculum or transportation and stuff, et cetera, that they are taken care of. And so it's a unique challenge, and I enjoy it. And but you do get burned out sometimes, I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, the nonprofit world, being a founder and, running a nonprofit it can be very exhausting. But I mean, here we are 4 years later with Action Zone, and it's pretty awesome. So talk about your podcast business when you pivoted there, and how does that, what do you do for customers?
Yeah, so I saw an opportunity in 2020 to start a production company around podcasting because, just to be quite frank, even when I think about my book, Black Veteran Entrepreneur, right? Like I've probably read over like 300 plus business books, listened to a ton of podcasts. If you walk into a Barnes and Nobles or any bookstore, very rarely do you see a Black business author, right? And if you do, it's usually like a come up story, less of like, oh, this marketing, a book on marketing, and it's just written by a Black author, et cetera. And so for me, it's important because it's about agency. Do you see yourself reflected in the text? Do you see your stories and your culture reflected? And so that planted a seed in my mind about, well, because we don't have a lot of Black business authors, even if you were to write a book, would a lot of people listen? I mean, would a lot of people read it? Versus a podcast, right? So podcast is this new emerging medium. I feel like podcasting is the future of publishing. And so I started thinking in my mind, well, what if Peter Drucker was alive today, right? Would Peter Drucker write, 30 books, or would he do 30 different podcasts? And so that kind of planted the seed about, hey, I can create content at scale for people around entrepreneurship and sharing the lessons and stuff I learned, coming up with my own ideas and frameworks, but I would do it via podcast. And then when it came time for me to actually think about, okay, how do I build a business around it? I saw that I could potentially do short, limited edition podcast series. So 10, 15, 20 episode series instead of these long, drawn out ones where people are producing a show week over week. And essentially a client could pay me almost like a website, right? You have a set fee, they pay you to produce, 10, 20 episodes, et cetera. And then we would produce it in-house and charge for it. And so that's the business model I came up with. And I tested it and was off to the races. And so really what I do is, I find brands that I feel like I can help, veteran-owned brands or nonprofit organizations that are trying to reach a similar audience as me from an impact perspective, but then also thinking about, just a creative way to build a brand. So I think I'm good at building brands. And so podcasting is a way to do it. You got to lean into it because it's content, as you know, like this show. But I feel like my clients get a ton of value out of it, and I enjoy doing it, and I'm excited. And the future is there's so much opportunity in audio.
So when you produce these episodes for your customers, is it Like, are you doing the podcast for them, or they're actually on the podcast?
It depends. So a client could pay us to produce the podcast, host the show, and be the face of the brand. But more often though, it's more of we just get the show going for them. So they want to start a podcast. They have no idea where to begin. They're busy, right? And so what we do is we come in and we launch their show for them, and we make it easy. So all they have to do is show up. We handle the editing, the show notes, the upload, the cover art, all of that in between.
Oh, that's interesting. Good morning. April has joined us this morning. You know her husband, Aaron. Actually, I know April too. She's been in the Bunker family for a while.
Nice.
Yeah. So, okay, so that leads into your book. Tell us about the book. I know you just mentioned not a whole lot of Black authors writing business books, but tell us a little bit more about the book and your journey in writing it.
Yeah, so for me as a brand guy, I always look for opportunities and niches, right? So just like in business, right? You can try to compete with everyone else, or you can carve out your own niche. And so once, things kind of started opening up, and even I started thinking about my journey over the last few years. Valerie, I've been around the entrepreneurial ecosystem from Stanford Ignite to, veterans and residents at Bunker Labs. I've done it all. I travel. In February, I went to a military veteran startup conference hosted by Context Ventures, which was great. But I will say in the back of my mind, I go in a lot of these spaces and I'm like, why are there not more Black and brown entrepreneurs, to be quite frank? Because there's this big push amongst the veteran community to get capital in the hands of veterans, help veterans start businesses. But in a lot of the circles I was moving in, I just didn't see a lot of Black veteran entrepreneurs, right? And so my idea was, well, it can't be anybody else's responsibility. It's mine. And so I wanted to write a book to, one, cultivate that ecosystem, to empower the next generation of Black veteran entrepreneurs to start a business, and then also have it as a way for us to kind of come together and be like, oh, that's me. I can self-identify as a Black veteran entrepreneur, and share these stories that I've collected, through all the interviews I've done on the transition stuff, et cetera. So it's really just trying to create agency around Black veteran entrepreneurship, let people know it exists. I want my community to go feel like they have a book for them. That's the other aspect of it. And then also it's me stepping off my own journey of being an author. So I know that sounds selfish, but you got to write. The only way to be an author is write a book. And so this is part of a journey for me as well. Of what is that experience like? And it's challenging. It's hard. I was writing all yesterday. But it's good. It's a good challenge.
I read somewhere, or maybe I saw it in a documentary, where Stephen King, he when he starts to write a book, he forces himself to write at least 10 pages a day. Like, that's his thing. And he doesn't ever go over or under. It's just 10 pages a day. Do you have some kind of ritual or discipline in your writing like that?
Yeah, I don't necessarily do 10 pages a day because I tried that kind of stuff and it didn't work out for me good. It's more about just carving out the time and trying to write, right? So let's say, 30 minutes at the coffee shop, boom. So most mornings I'll go to a CrossFit gym, I'll come back, I'll shower, meditate, and then I'll go to the coffee shop downstairs and I'll write for an hour or so. And one of the things I've been working on now, which is, and I give credit to the whole James Clear and Atomic Habits of making it fun, making it easy, right? So not stressing out about it, because it's like, I got to get this whole thing done. Sometimes I'll sit down and write for 20, 30 minutes. And even though I might have more in me, I'll just walk away, just to keep it fun, to keep it easy. And so I've tried a bunch of different things. So everything from writing, handwritten stuff, and then transcribing it. And for this final push, as we go into copy editing phase, I'll probably have to start doing a lot more of that too. So the biggie thing is just sitting down and just writing. It's just a battle. It's hard. The hard things about hard things. There's no way around it. And I will tell you, going through this book writing process, I see why people never actually make it to publishing a book.
That's crazy. Yeah. Back to your saying, running in the entrepreneurial circles throughout the country and not seeing a whole lot of Black and brown. So this month is Asian American Island Pacific Heritage Month. And I just recently spoke on a panel and one of the audience members, she said that she really appreciated the entrepreneurs that were on the panel because there's not a whole lot of Asian American entrepreneurs that are highlighted, and most Asian entrepreneurs go into the family business, which is like salons and Asian markets and restaurants and stuff. And all three of us that were on the panel had nothing to do with any of that stuff. And the question came up about resources. And when we hear the term Black and Brown, that doesn't include Asian in Black and Brown. So I totally can relate to not seeing a whole lot of people that look like me or in industries. Even with Luminary, my company, as soon as people find out that I'm the owner, like female founder selling emergency stuff, that industry, why is my light keep turning off? But that industry is mostly male dominated. So yeah, I get it. So I appreciate you recognizing that and saying, well,
but yeah, it's all about having agency, right? Like but you're right. Like, for Asian Americans, they want to see themselves reflected in books and literature and stuff too, right? Yeah. Granted, like you said, oh yeah, we run, and I'm not trying to be stereotyped, but there are those businesses that Asian families run. But the thing is, there's also infrastructure there. So it's like, you're really good at running these things. You know how to set them up, etc. But then also understanding that, like, you have this long track record of success in it. So I think sometimes when we're creating this kind of content, writing these books and stuff, etc., people that get offended by it, get triggered by it, don't realize they're not even the audience for it.
Right.
It's a completely different audience that you don't even know exists. That you probably you don't care about it because you take it for granted. But I know in $2019, when I won $25,000 from the Street Shares Foundation, I won a grant for $25K. So many people messaged me, emailed me, etc., and said, Mike, you have no idea how good it felt to see you standing up on that stage, with that check. And then even the Bunker Lives podcast that I have the privilege of hosting, right? The idea to have a face that people feel like they can reach out and touch, that looks like them, I think it's important. And that was one of the nudges for me to approach Bunker Lives about producing that podcast, because I felt like, we've got all these amazing stories in our ecosystem, right? But again, there's just this when you talk about representation across the board in terms of the veteran entrepreneurial ecosystem, right? I just feel like we have a missed opportunity in terms of the entrepreneurs that we're highlighting. Or if you say, hey, we want to get more diverse entrepreneurs, then what you got to do is you got to create content for them, or you got to have we see one, and we feel like we can go. So like you said, like if I go to an event or something and there's not one Asian American there, and all of a sudden I see you and I start seeing you pop up at places, then that passes my sniff test. And I'm like, oh, Valerie, tell me about this, and et cetera. So that's the concept behind all that stuff.
Yeah, it's having that representation. This audience member that had brought that up, she was like, I'm the black sheep in the family because I want to start a business that's not in one of those, expected family businesses. And she didn't want to be a doctor or a dentist. Yeah. So she appreciated seeing the diverse companies that we had on the panel. So tell us, how can people get your book?
So it's going to come out in October of 2022. So you'll be able to get it on Amazon. You can follow it on my social and stuff, et cetera. It's going to be super accessible. In the meantime, just engage our content. I host a transition podcast, release an episode every week. We've had amazing entrepreneurs on there of all shades of color. And I really encourage the community to check that out. That's a resource for them. Additionally, just add me on LinkedIn, Iron Mike Steadman. I'm not hard to find. I feel like I got a track record on the internet. So just reach out to me and engage with my content.
Mm-hmm. And so I didn't even think to tell them, the audience, about your transition podcast. tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so each week I interview an entrepreneur, veteran entrepreneur, military spouse, demystify their entrepreneurial journey. I feel like there's a lot of hype in the entrepreneurial space, and it's very hard. Like running a business is super hard. And so what I found out is that when a lot of veterans are transitioning out and they want to start a business, they're grabbing like the Tim Ferriss books and all that kind of stuff. And I like Tim Ferriss, don't get me wrong, but that kind of pop entrepreneurship stuff, right? Versus like just learn from real business owners that are in the fight, in the trenches. And so that's the purpose of that podcast, is to keep people on the right track so that they're not focused on a lot of the vanity stuff. And they're hearing these other stories from their peers. So that shows them what's possible in their own journey.
Yeah. That's part, the entrepreneurs in the trenches is part of the reason why in Action Zone, in order to be a facilitator for our programs, you have to be an entrepreneur because there's no better lesson than, as you put it, being in the trenches when you're trying to support or, help young entrepreneurs build and grow their business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One other thing you mentioned, you said something about raising money and stuff. And I know you and I have talked about if you're really in front of entrepreneurs, you realize that most of the businesses that they aspire to start, you don't need to raise a whole lot of money. I feel like raising money is such a sexy thing in the entrepreneur community, and it's just absolutely not necessary.
Right.
There's so much you can do with to bootstrap your business, even tech businesses. I mean, you can go a long time without having to raise funds.
Yeah, and I also think it can be a distraction for a lot of our community too, because they should be focused on building real businesses. Even if you're a nonprofit, right, you still got to get the program going. That's your business, right? Your ability to execute that program. And people can spend all their time trying to raise capital instead of actually building a business. And so for me, I very much push people to start building real businesses, like start putting money in the bank account sooner rather than later, before you invest all this time, effort, and energy in building something that people may or may not want. And so focus on getting clients and driving revenue.
Right. And, I was talking to an entrepreneur, actually called me this weekend in a panic because there's two founders and they're having some challenges. And I was like, you don't even have your business model like solidified. You're still building your business model. So don't worry about raising money right now. It's causing too much stress and it's taking away from actually doing your customer discovery, trying to determine if your solution is viable for the problems that you think you're going to, bless you, provide your customers. So anyway, yeah, I totally agree with you. Raising money can be such a distraction if you haven't even validated your business model.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right, Mike, any last words for our audience? I know you're a busy man, so I appreciate you showing up at 9 a.m. on Monday morning.
Yeah, I was teasing Valerie. I was like, Valerie, this is early on a Monday morning. But no, in all seriousness, so Valerie's an amazing entrepreneur. She's a real deal. Take her advice, because not only do you get to interact with all the entrepreneurs like I do in the bunker, which helps us out in a sense of just the vast scope we get to see. So it's not like we're just giving bad advice to people. It's like we've seen this work time and time and time again. We're constantly talking to entrepreneurs out there in the ecosystem, and then the success you've had with your own business. I just think you're a great resource. So I appreciate you having me on, and I encourage your listeners to take advantage of it.
Well, and I didn't pay him to say all that, and I'm honored to, have the compliments from the Mike Steadman.
Appreciate it.
All right, my friend. I can't wait to see you again in person, and good luck with your book launch, and just keep killing it, man. I just love you to death.
Thanks, Valerie.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.